Go.
Okay, why am I standing here?
Where are you standing?
Well, I'm standing right here on Union Square, which is a central point, and it's particularly a central point of protest in New York City. It's recognized to have that particular function within the city. So the reason that I'm here, well, I could be other places. I could be other places within New York City. For example, I could be at 86th Street and 5th Avenue in Brooklyn. What good would that do? I'd be right in the middle of the Arab community where everybody agrees with me. That wouldn't do any good. What's the point in being there? I'm being here because I'm going to be spit at, I'm going to be argued with. But I'm going to at least tell some people who don't know that.
Are people furious? Do you think? Do you stir up some feelings here among the people when
we start.
Like what kind of people are that react the most? Is it people who are old or young or students?
Oh, it falls across all ages. It does. It falls across all ages, and it's not only Jews, but I suppose it's mostly Jews. I don't really know that particular point. I mean, a person doesn't wear around a sign saying I'm a Jew, though he can if he wants to wear his yarmulke and things of that sort.
So do you have any Jews here with you today?
Yes, we do. I don't think we have any today. We have a couple who usually come here, and they said last week that they'd be busy today. They wouldn't be able to come here. Yeah.
So how many times do you do this?
Every weekend when the weather permits.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Which is most of the time. It's 40-some weekends a year.
And what's the name of your organization?
It's the Palestinian group of Union Square East.
Right.
So and it's not really a formal group. We don't have formal meetings. We don't have a constitution, or we don't have bylaws or anything of that sort. We just get here and we face the public, and the public argues with us in many, many ways. And we answer them.
And are they convinced? Do you find that they're convinced?
Arguments vary from the very short ones to the rather long ones. So with the very short ones, there's no success anywhere. I mean, it's somebody gives us an obscene sign, somebody shouts at us, calls us idiots, things of that sort. Well, that's not a dialogue, but that happens pretty often. So
let's say here, for example, there's an argument going on. Are they arguing about this very issue?
Probably they are. I can't really make out what exactly they're arguing about. But quite often we have arguments, and quite often the arguments last for quite some time. Yeah, and people really want to know. And as a matter of fact, quite often the argument kind of ends by the person saying, well, I have to go now, I can't talk anymore.
Yeah.
And so forth and so on. Because there are a significant number of arguments on both sides. I want to bring all the arguments, both the arguments that are favorable to our cause and the arguments that aren't favorable to our cause, I want to bring them out in the open. I don't want to hide anything. That's very important.
How many US dollars are sent every year to Israel?
I don't know, but if it's $3 billion, which is probably what it is, that's what we have assigned here, and somebody changed a 3 to an 8. That would be the direct money that goes to Israel from the U.S. government. There's other money, of course, that goes by people who are friends of Israel, people who buy Israel bonds and so forth.
Yeah.
So I suppose if you add all that up, probably 7 or 8 billion a year isn't very much. $3 billion amounts to, if you do the arithmetic, about $20 every second.
And what about the Palestinians? How much money do they get from the U.S. government?
Not very much. I don't know that.
I think it's something to the effect of $14 million, something like that.
Something like that. It's ridiculous, yeah. And then that great amount that they were going to send to Gaza was held up because Gaza was controlled by Hamas, and Hamas has been declared a terrorist organization. So it has that legal status in the United States as a terrorist organization.
But now Britain is going to have talks with Hamas. That was the recent news.
Yeah, isn't that something? Yes. I mean, how can you say that Hamas is a terrorist organization and not say that the Israeli occupation forces, and I refuse to call them the Israeli Defense Forces, I'd rather call it the Israeli Army. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Why call it the occupation forces or the defense forces? Why can you call Hamas a terrorist organization and not call the Israeli Army a terrorist organization?
Yeah.
That's a double standard. Pure and simple.
But that's because many believe that Israel is just defending itself from terrorist attacks. For example, the Qassam rockets, etc.,
Yes. Israel has managed to sell that line pretty well, and it's a hard line to buck up against.
But they believe that they're bombing the children that have been killed so far are Hamas children. That's what they say. They're Hamas children, and they're preventing future terrorists. Attacks.
I mean, there are parallels all over the place. This is what an occupation force will always do. I mean, I just saw in the movie last night about originally the Soviet occupation, and then later the German occupation of Poland. And sure, every time they killed all the Polish officers. Of course they did. And they killed a lot of children. Every time they kill a child, well, that's a child that's going to grow up to be a terrorist. I mean, that's not something new. I mean, one of the facets of modern warfare is occupation. And occupation means controlling the civilian population. And how do you control the civilian population? Now, if we're going to talk about Gaza for a minute, we're going to have to talk about the Geneva Convention, okay? Because the Geneva Convention requires that the occupying power provide for the occupied inhabitants, and Israel has not been doing it. The blockade of Gaza that they've carried on, which they say they did in order to keep the weapons out. Well, yes and no. That, you know, there's a famous case about they kept the shipment of macaroni out and things of that sort. Simply speaking, there isn't even enough water in Gaza. Water is a terrible problem. Sarah Roy, who's a Jewish professor at Harvard, who has visited the West Bank many, many times, wrote one time about how she got a cup of tea in Gaza. And if you've been around Arabs, you know that when an Arab offers you hospitality, you must accept it. There's no choice to tell an Arab that you don't want. You must take what the Arab gives you. That's very deep in the culture. So she took the cup of tea, and she wanted to know how they got enough water to make that cup of tea, and they got that water a drop at a time. I mean, that's how scarce the water is. I mean, people have bad teeth in Gaza because they're so nobody talks about that. Somebody talks about suddenly the anger flips up, and everybody talks about what the occupied people do when the anger reaches its peak and it can't be contained anymore.
Exactly.
Nobody talks about what it's almost as if we were standing on the subway and I was standing on your foot like that, and you said, "Oh, well, that doesn't hurt me," and that doesn't hurt me, that doesn't hurt me, and after all, you said, "Get off my foot!" And everybody in the subway would say, "What is that woman yelling for?"
So you're talking about being provoked then.
You see, but they don't talk about the thing that provoked her anger, and that's what's happening to the people under occupation.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you
so much.